Good morning, everyone. Thank you for coming to our third day of our speech meet. Yeah. We have a theme this year, and actually, Mr. Warren, you're here. Would you just come up and explain the theme for this year?
All the world's a stage, and all the men and women merely players. They have their exits and their entrances, and each man in his time plays many parts. Today, the 7th, 8th, and 9th graders will be reciting pieces from William Shakespeare. Woo! Yeah! Memorization this year proved to be a bit difficult. I heard from a very reliable source who was a comedian who rewrote the Three Little Pigs in Shakespearean style. He said that William Shakespeare's vocabulary, he had about 54,000 words in his working vocabulary, and most Americans today have about 3,000 words. So it was difficult for the students, first of all, just to figure out what was being said. Another difficulty was knowing how to deliver the speech, given the context of the scene that it came from. And so that took a bit of research, just finding out not only what was in that scene, but also what was the entire play about. However, they've all worked really hard, and I'm sure that you will enjoy what they have for you today. Most of the students have a brief introduction to their scene. Some students don't have an introduction because some of them will be reciting prologues, and a prologue is itself an introduction. And then some students will be reciting sonnets. Sonnets are short poems, and so no introduction is needed there. So without further ado, and certainly without much ado about nothing, the 7th grade class.
Well, one adieu, I don't know. One adieu, like adieu, one adieu first. So let's pray as we begin today. Heavenly Father, we thank you for this speech meet day. Thank you for all the work that's been put into the presentations by the students and help from the parents. And thank you for the wonderful performances from the kindergartners all the way up to the 6th graders in the last few days. Thank you that we are able to do this. Thank you for the capabilities you build into us. Thank you for these students and their giftedness. We pray that your name would be honored today. In Christ's name, amen. All right.
Henry VIII, Prologue. I come no more to make you laugh. Things now that bear a weighty and serious brow, sad, high, and working, full of state and woe, such noble scenes as draw the eye to flow, we now present. Those that can pity, here may, if they think it well, let fall a tear. The subject will deserve it. Such as give money out of hope that they may believe, here may find truth too. Those that come to see only a show or two, and so agree, the play may pass if they be still and willing. I'll undertake to see away their shilling richly in 2 short hours. Only they that come to hear a merry bawdy play, a noise of targets, or to see a fellow in a long motley coat, guarded with yellow, will be deceived. For, gentle hearers know, to rank one's chosen truth on such a show is fool and fight is, besides forfeiting our own brains in the opinion we bring. To make that only true we now intend, will leave us with never an understanding friends. Therefore, for goodness sake, as ye are known the first and happiest tears of the town, be sad as we would make ye. Think ye see the very persons of our noble story as though they were great. Think ye see them as though they were living. and followed with the general throng and sweat of 1,000 friends. Then in a moment see how soon this mightiness meets misery. And if you can be married then, I'll say a man may weep upon his wedding day. Julius Caesar, Act 3, Scene 2. After the death of Julius Caesar, Brutus addresses the crowd in the forum, assuring them he did not kill Caesar out of lack of love for him, but that his love for Rome outweighed his love for a single man. Romans, countrymen, lovers, hear me for my cause, and be silent that you may hear. Believe me for mine honor, and have respect to mine honor, that you may believe. Censor me in your wisdom, and awake your senses, that you may the better judge. If there be any, in this assembly, any dear friend of Caesar's, to him I say, Brutus's love for Caesar was no less than his. If then that friend demands why Brutus rose up against Caesar, this is my answer. Not that I loved Caesar less, but that I loved Rome more. Had you rather Caesar were living to die all slaves than Caesar be dead to live all freemen? As Caesar loved me, I weep for him. As he was fortunate, I rejoiced at it. As he was valiant, I honored him. But as he was ambitious, I slew him. There is tears for his love, joy for his fortune, honor for his valor, and death for his ambition. Who here is so base that would be a bondman? If any speak, for him I have offended. Who here is so rude that would not be a Roman? If any speak, for him I have offended. Who here is so vile that would not love his country? If any speak, for him I have offended. I pause for a reply. Then none I have offended. I have done no more to Caesar than you shall do to Brutus. His glory not extenuated wherein he was worthy, nor his offenses enforced, for which he suffered death. Here comes the body, mourned by Mark Antony, who, though he had no hand in his death, shall receive the benefit of him dying, a place in the commonwealth, as which of you shall not? With this I depart, that I slew my best lover for the good of Rome. And I have the same dagger for myself when it shall come to please my country, to need my death. Thank you.
Macbeth, Act 5, Scene 5. At this moment, Macbeth's suffering is intense in becoming unbearable. His victim's ghost is haunting him. His guilt is torturing him. His enemies are closing in on him. His wife has gone mad, and now he's just heard that she's committed suicide. Tomorrow and tomorrow and tomorrow creeps in this petty pace from day to the last syllable of recorded time. And all our yesterdays have lighted fools the way to dusty death. Out, brief candle, life's but a walking shadow, a poor player that struts and frets its hour upon the stage, and then is heard no more. It is a tale told by an idiot, full of sound and fury, signifying nothing. Comedy of Errors, Act 5, Scene 1. Twin brothers with twin servants, separated by a shipwreck, unaware of the other's survival. Each brother, with his servant, lives in a different city, their paths never crossing until now. Mistaken identity causes a string of chaotic coincidences, leading Antipholus, one of the twin brothers, to make his case before the Duke of Ephesus. My liege, I'm advised what I say, neither disturbed with the effect of wine nor heady rash, provoked with raging ire. Albeit my wrongs might make one wiser mad, this woman locked me out this day from dinner. That goldsmith there, were he not packed with her, could witness it, for he was with me then. who parted with me to go fetch a chain, promising to bring it to the Porpentine, where Balthazar and I did dine together. Our dinner done, and he not coming thither, I went to seek him. In the street I met him, and in his company, that gentleman there, did this perjured goldsmith swear me down that I this day of him received the chain. Which God he knows I saw not, for the which he did arrest me with an officer. I did obey, and sent my peasant home. For certain ducats he with them returned. Then fairly I bespoke the officer to go in person with me to my house. By the way we met, my wife, her sister, and a rabble more of vile confederates. Along with them they brought one pinch, a hungry, lean-faced villain, a mere anatomy, a mountebank, a threadbare juggler, and a fortune-teller, a needy, hollow-eyed, sharp-looking wretch, a dead-looking man. This pernicious slave forsooth took him on as a conjurer, and gazing in mine eyes, feeling my pulse, and with no face as 'twere outfacing me, cries out, I was possessed. Then, all together, they fell upon me, bound me, bore me thence, and in a dark and dankish vault at home, there left me and my man, both bound together, till, gnawing with my teeth my bonds in sunder, I gained my freedom, and immediately ran hither to your grace, whom I beseech to give me ample satisfaction for these deep shames and great indignities. Thank you.
Richard II, Act 3, Scene 2. King Richard of England leaves his homeland to personally oversee the war in Ireland. In his absence, his cousin Henry Bolingbroke seeks to not just retake his stolen inheritance, but to ultimately take the throne of England. In this scene, Richard has just realized that his supporters have dispersed, been executed, or joined Henry. His throne is truly in jeopardy. No matter where of comfort no man speak, let's talk of graves, of worms, and epitaphs. Make dust our paper, and with rainy eyes write sorrow on the bosom of the earth. Let's choose executors and talk of wills. And yet not so, for what can we bequeath, save our deposed bodies to the ground? Our lands, our lives, and all are Bolingbroke's, and nothing we can call our own but death, and the small model of the barren earth which serves as paste and cover to our bones. For God's sake, let us sit upon the ground and tell sad stories of the death of kings, how some have been deposed, some slain in war, some haunted by the ghosts they have deposed, some poisoned by their wives, some sleeping killed, all murdered, for within the hollow crown which rounds the mortal temples of a king keeps death his court, and there the antic sits, scoffing his state, grinning at his pomp, allowing him a breath, a little scene to monarchize, be feared and kill with looks, infusing him with self and vain conceit, as if this flesh which walls about our life were brass impregnable, and humored thus. Comes at the last with a little pin, bores through his castle wall, and farewell, king. Cover your heads and mock not flesh and blood. With solemn reverence throw away respect, tradition, form, and ceremonious duty. For you have but mistook me all this while. I live with bread like you, feel want, taste grief, need friends, subjected thus. How can you say to me, I am a king? Henry V, Act 3, Scene 1. King Henry of England seeks to rouse his men to victory at the Battle of Harfleur, part of his campaign to take the throne of France. Once more into the breach, dear friends, once more, or close up the wall with our English dead. In peace there's nothing so becomes a man as modest stillness and humility, but when the blast of war blows on our ears, then imitate the action of the tiger, stiffen the sinews, summon up the blood, disguise fair nature with hard-favored rage, then lend the eye a terrible aspect. Let pride through the portage of the head as fearfully as doth the brass cannon, let the brow o'erwhelm it, as fearfully as doth a galled rock o'erhang, and jutty his confounded base. On, ye noblest English, whose blood is fet from fathers of war-proof. Fathers that, like so many Alexanders have in these parts, from morn till even fought, sheathed their swords for lack of argument. Dishonor not your mothers. Now attest that those whom you called fathers did beget you. Be copied now to men of grosser blood, and teach them how to war. And you, good yeomen, whose limbs were made in England, Show us here the mettle of your pastures. Let us swear to you that you were worth your breeding, which I doubt not. For there is none of you so mean and base that hath not noble lustre in your eyes. I see you standing like greyhounds in the slips, straining upon the start. The game's afoot, and upon fall your spirits, and upon this charge cry God for Harry, England, and St. George. Thank you.
Troilus and Cressida, Act 3, Scene 3. This play takes place in the middle of the Trojan War, 7 years after Prince Paris of Troy stole beautiful Helen from her Greek husband King Menelaus. In this scene, Ulysses tells Achilles that he is no longer a hero, that Ajax is man of the hour, and that because of Achilles' own heroic exploits are past, he will be forgotten quickly. That, says Ulysses, is the way the world works. Good deeds are quickly forgotten, and only the present is remembered. Time hath, my lord, a wallet at his back, wherein he puts alms for oblivion, a great-sized monster of ingratitudes. Those scraps are good deeds past, which are devoured as fast as they are made, forgot as soon as done. Perseverance, dear my lord, keeps honor bright. To have done is to hang quite out of fashion, like a rusty mail in monumental mockery. Take the instant way, for honor travels in a strait so narrow, where one but goes abreast. Keep then the path, for emulation hath 1,000 sons that one by one pursue. If you give way, or hedge aside from direct forthright, like to an entered tide, they all rush by and leave you hindmost. Or like a gallant horse, fallen in the first rank, lie there for pavement to the abject rear, overrun and trampled on. Then what they do in the present, though less than yours in the past, must overtop yours. For time is like a fashionable host, which slightly shakes his parting guest by the hand, with his arms outstretched, as he would fly, grasps in the comer. Welcome ever smiles, and farewell goes on sighing. Oh, let not virtue seek for remuneration for the thing it was, for beauty, wit, high birth, vigor of bone, desert and service, love, friendship, charity, are subjects all to envious and calumniating time. One touch of nature makes the whole world kin. That all with one consent begin to praise the newborn gods, though made and molded of things past, and give to dust a little guilt, more laud than guilt overdusted. The present eye praises the present object. Then marvel not, thy great and complete man, that all Greeks begin to worship Ajax. Since things in motion sooner catch the eye than what not stirs, the cry went once on thee, and still it might, and yet it may again, if thou wouldst not entomb thyself, and case thy reputation alive in thy tent, whose glorious deeds, but in fields of late, made emulous missions amongst the gods themselves, and drave great Mars to faction. Thank you.
Henry VI, Part 1, Act 1, Scene 2. Henry VI, Part 1 depicts the collapse of England's power in France. Here, Joan of Arc speaks to Charles the Dauphin and declares herself chosen by the Virgin Mary to free France from the English. Charles challenges her to a single combat, loses, and grants authority as a military leader. Dauphin: I am by birth a shepherd's daughter, my wit untrained in any kind of art. Heaven and our gracious Lady hath it pleased to shine on my contemptible estate. Lowest I waited on my tender lambs, and the sun's parching heat displayed my cheeks. God's mother deigned to appear to me in a vision full of majesty, willed me to leave my base vocation and free my country from calamity. Her aid she promised and assured success. In complete glory she revealed herself to me, whereas I was black and swart before. Those clear rays that she infused on me, that beauty am I blessed with which you see. I ask me question thou canst possible, and I will answer unpremeditated. My courage strive I combat if thou darest, and thou shalt find I exceed my sex. Resolve on this, and thou shalt be fortunate. I am prepared. Here is my keen-edged sword, decked with 5 flower de-luce on each side. The witch at Touraine in St. Catherine's churchyard. While I live, I fly near from a man. Thank you.
Richard III, Act 2, Scene 1. John of Gaunt, the Duke of Lancaster, resents the treacherous and arbitrary rule of King Richard III, who he blames for the murder of the Duke of Gloucester. In this scene, John, who is very sick, laments the fate of England as he prepares for his own death. Methinks I am a prophet, new inspired, and thus aspiring do foretell of him. His rash, fierce blaze of riot cannot last, for violent fires soon burn out themselves. Small showers last long, but sudden storms are short. He tires betimes, that spurs too fast betimes, with eager feeding food, doth choke the feeder. Light vanity, insatiate cormorant, consuming means soon preys upon itself. This royal throne of kings, this sceptred isle, this earth of majesty, this seat of Mars, this other Eden, demi-paradise, this fortress built by nature for herself against infection in the hand of war, this happy breed of men, this little world, this precious stone set in silver sea, which serves in the office of a wall, or as a moat defense to a house, against the envy of less happier lands. This blessed plot, this earth, this realm, this England, this nurse, this teeming womb of royal kings, feared by their breed and famous by their birth, renowned for their deeds is far from home, for Christian service and true chivalry, as is a sepulchre and subjury of the world's ransom. Blessed Mary Son, this land of such your souls, this dear, dear land. Dear for a reputation through the world, is now leased out. I die pronouncing it, like to a tenement or a pelting farm. England bound in with the triumphant sea, whose rocky shore beats back the envious siege of watery Neptune, is now bounded with shame. With inky blots and rotten parchment blondes, that England that was wont to conquer others have made a shameful conquest of itself. Ah, would the scandal vanish with my life? How happy then were my ensuing death. Thank you.
Hamlet, Act 4, Scene 4. Hamlet comes across a brave and decisive Norwegian prince who is on his way to conquer a tiny, insignificant piece of land in Poland. Hamlet wonders at the Norwegian prince's determined actions for such a pointless goal, and in response, tries to stoke the fires of his own revenge against the suspected murder of his father, his uncle Claudius. How all occasions do inform against me, and spur on my dull revenge. For what is a man, if his chief good and market of his time be, but to sleep and feed? A beast, no more. Sure he that made such large discourse, looking before and after, and gave us not that capability, and God-like reason to fuss in us unused. Now, whether it be bestial oblivion, or some craven scruple of thinking too precisely on the event, a thought which quartered hath 1 part wisdom, but ever 3 parts coward, I do not know. Why yet I live to say these things to do. Sith, I've cause and will and strength and means to do it. Examples growth as earth exhorts me. Witness this army of such mass and charge, led by a delicate and tender prince, whom spirit with divine ambition puffed makes mouths at the invisible event, exposing what is mortal and unsure to all that fortune. Death and danger dare, even for an eggshell. Rightly to be good is not to stir without great argument, greatly to find quarrel in a straw when honor is at the stake. How stand I then that have a father killed, a mother stained, excitements of my reason and my blood, and let all sleep? To my shame, I see the imminent death of 20,000 men that, for a fantasy and a trick of fame, go to their graves like beds, fight for a plot whereon the numbers cannot try the cause, which is not tomb enough and continent to hide the slain. Oh, From this time forth, my thoughts be bloody or be nothing worth. Henry V, Act 4, Scene 1. On the eve of the Battle of Agincourt in France, King Henry V prays to God to strengthen the hearts of his soldiers, and also begs God not to punish him for the bloody manner which his own father took the English crown, to Henry's shame and regret. O God of battles, steel my soldiers' hearts, possess them not with fear, take from them their sense of reckoning. Think if the opposed numbers pluck their hearts from them, not today, O Lord, oh, not today. Think not upon the faults my father made encompassing the crown. I, Richard's body, have entered anew, and on it have bestowed more contrite tears than from it issued forced drops of blood. 500 poor I have in yearly pay, whom twice a day their withered hands hold up toward heaven to pardon blood. I have built 2 chantries, where the sad and solemn priest sings still for Richard's soul. More will I do, though all that I can do is nothing worse, since that my pension comes after all, imploring pardon. Thank you.
I discharge is ready. Julius Caesar, Act 3, Scene 2. Before speaking to the public at Julius Caesar's funeral, Mark Antony spends a few moments alone with the corpse. He laments the fact he must pretend his approval of what Brutus and the other conspirators did. Oh, pardon me, thou bleeding piece of earth, that I am meek and gentle with these butchers. Thou art the ruins of the noblest man that ever lived in the tide of times. Woe to the hand that shed this costly blood. Over thy wounds now do I prophesy, which like dumb mouths do ope their ruby lips. To beg the voice and utterance of my tongue, a curse shall light upon the limbs of men. Domestic fury and fierce civil strife shall cumber all parts of Italy. Blood and destruction shall be so in use, and dreadful objects so familiar, that mothers shall but smile when they behold their infants quartered with the hands of war, all pity choked with custom of fell deeds, and Caesar's spirit ranging for revenge, with hate by his side come hot from hell, shall in these confines a monarch's voice cry havoc, and let slip the dogs of war, that this foul deed shall smell above the earth, with carrion men groaning for burial. Macbeth, Act 2, Scene 1. Macbeth is a Scottish nobleman who distinguishes himself in fighting off invaders. King Duncan wishes to reward Macbeth and visits Macbeth's castle to celebrate their victory. Little does he know, Macbeth had a prophecy that he would one day take the throne from Duncan. In this scene, Macbeth fantasizes about the dagger, which will be the death of Duncan. Is this a dagger which I see before me? The handle towards my hand? Come, let me clutch thee. I have thee not, and yet I see thee still. Art thou not fatal vision, sensible to feeling as to sight? Or art thou but a dagger of the mind, a false creation, proceeding from the heat-oppressed brain? I see thee yet, in form as palpable, as this which now I draw. Thou marshallest me in the way I was going, and such an instrument I was to use. Mine eyes are made the fools, oh, the other senses. or else with all the rest I see thee still, and on thy blade in dudgeon and gouts of blood, which was not so before. There's no such thing. It is bloody business which informs thus to mine eyes. Now o'er the one half world, nature seems dead, and wicked dreams abuse the curtained sleep, and witchcraft celebrates pale Hecate's offerings, and withered murder, alarmed by his sentinel, the wolf, whose howl is his watch. Thus, with his stealthy pace, with Tarquin's ravishing strides towards his design, moves like a ghost. Thou sure and firm-set earth, hear not my steps which way they walk, for fear thy very stones prate of my whereabout, and take the present horror from the time which now sues with it. Whilst I threat, he lives. Words to the heat of deeds to cold breath gives. I go, and it is done. The bell invites me. Hear it not, Duncan, for it is a knell that summons thee to heaven or to hell. Thank you.
Henry V, Prologue. Oh, for a muse of fire that would ascend the brightest heaven of invention, a kingdom for stage, princes to act, and monarchs to behold the swelling scene. Then should the warlike Harry, like himself, assume the port of Mars, and at his heels, leashed in like hounds, should famine, sword, and fire crouch for employment. But pardon, and gentles all, the flat unraised spirits that have dared on this unworthy scaffold to bring forth so great an object. Can this cockpit hold the vasty fields of France? Or may we cram within this wooden ode the very cast that did affright the air at Agincourt? Oh, pardon, since a crooked figure may attest in little place a million. And let us, ciphers to this great accompt on your imaginary forces work. Suppose within the girdle of these walls are confined two mighty monarchies, whose high upreared and abutting fronts the perilous narrow ocean parts asunder. Piece out your imperfections with your thoughts, into 1,000 parts divide on man, and make imaginary puissance. Think, when we talk of horses, that you see them, printing their proud hooves in the receiving earth. For 'tis your thoughts that now we must deck our kings, carry them here and there, jumping o'er times, turning the accomplishments of many years into an hourglass. For the which supply, admit me, chorus, to this history, who prologue like your humble patience pray. Gently to hear, kindly to judge our play. Henry V, Act 5, Scene 1, Prologue. Vouchsafe to those that have not read the story, that I may prompt them, and if such as have, I humbly pray them to admit the excuse of time, of numbers, and due course of things, which cannot in their huge and proper life be here presented. Now we bear the king toward Calais, grant him there seen, heave him away upon your winged thoughts athwart the sea. But now behold, the English beach pales in the flood with men, with wives and boys, whose shouts and claps outvoice the deep-mouthed sea, which, like a mighty whiffler, for the king seems to prepare his way. So let him land, and see him solemnly set unto London. So swift a pace hath thought that even now you may imagine him upon Blackheath, where his lords desire him to have borne his bruised helmet and his bended sword onto the city. So let him, but he forbids it, being free from vainness and self-glorious pride, quite giving full trophy, signal, and ostent, quite from himself to God. But now behold, in the quick forge and working house of thought, how London doth pour out her citizens, the mayor and all his brethren in best sort, which, like to the senators of the antique Rome, with plebeians swarming at their heels, go and fetch their conquering Caesar in, as, by a lower but loving likelihood, were now the general of our gracious empress, from Ireland coming, bringing rebellion broached on his sword. How many would the peaceful city quit to welcome him? Much more, and much more cause did they this harry. Now, Sorry. Okay, sorry. I can't remember. Okay. Then brook abridgment and let your eyes advance straight back again to France. Thank you.
Sonnet 104. To me, fair friend, you never can be old, for as you were when first your eye I eyed, such seems your beauty still, 3 winters cold, have from the forest shook 3 summers' pride. 3 beauteous springs to yellow autumns turned, in process of the seasons have I seen, 3 April perfumes to 3 hot Junes burned, since first I saw you fresh, which yet are green. Ah, yet doth beauty like a dial hand steal from his figure, and no pace perceived. So your sweet hue, which methinks still doth stand, hath motion mine eye may be deceived. For fear of which, hear this, thou age inbred, ere you were born was beauty's summer dead. Sonnet 65. Since brass, nor stone, nor earth, nor boundless sea, but sad mortality o'ersways their power, how with this rage shall beauty hold its plea, whose action is no stronger than a flower? Oh, how shall summer's honey breath hold out against the wrackful siege of battering days, when rocks impregnable are not so stout, nor gates of steel so strong but time decays? O fearful meditation, where I lack, shall time's best jewel from time's chest lie hid? Or what strong hand can hold his swift foot back? Or who his spoil of beauty can forbid? O none, unless this miracle have might, that in black ink my love may still shine bright. Sonnet 27. Weary with toil, I haste me to my bed, the dear repose for limbs with travel tired. But then begins a journey in my head, to work my mind when body's work's expired. For then my thoughts, far from where I abide, intend a zealous journey to thee, and keep my drooping eyelids open wide, looking on darkness the blind do see. Save that my soul's imaginary sight presents thy shadow to my sightless view, which like a jewel hung in ghastly night, makes black night beauteous and her old face new. Lo, thus by day my limbs, by night my mind, for thee and for myself no quiet find. Sonnet 106. When in the chronicle of wasted time, I see descriptions of the fairest wights, and beauty making beautiful old rhyme, in praise of ladies dead and lovely knights, then in the blazon of sweet beauty's best, of hand, of foot, of lip, of eye, of brow, I see their antique pen would have expressed even such a beauty as you master now. So all their praises are but prophecies of this our time, all you prefiguring. And so they looked, but with divining eyes, they had not your worth enough to sing. For we, which now behold these present days, have eyes to wonder, but lack tongues to praise. Thank you.
Henry V, Act 4, Prologue. Here we catch a glimpse of the confident French and anxious English armies on the night before the Battle of Agincourt. King Henry passes among his troops to cheer their dread-filled spirits. Now entertain conjecture of a time when creeping murmur in the pouring dark fills the wide vessel of the universe. From camp to camp, through the foul womb of night, the hum of either army stilly sounds, that the fixed sentinels almost receive the secret whispers of each other's watch. Fire answers fire, and through their paly flames, each battle sees the other's unburred face. Steed threatens steed in high and boastful neighs, piercing the night's dull ear. And from the tents, the armorers accomplishing the knights, with busy hammers closing rivets up, give dreadful note of preparation. The country cocks do crow, the clocks do toll, and the third hour of drowsy morning name. Proud of their numbers and secure in soul, the confident and overlusty French do the low-rated English play at dice, and chide the crippled tardy-gated knight, who like a foul and ugly witch doth limp so tediously away. The poor condemned English, who like sacrifices by their watchful fires sit patiently and inly ruminate the morning's danger, and their gestures sad, investing lank lean, cheeks and war-worn coats presenteth them unto the weary unto the weary and all-watched night. So many horrid ghosts. Oh, now, who will behold the royal captain of this ruined band, walking from watch to watch, from tent to tent? Let him cry praise and glory on his head. For forth he goes and visits all his hosts, bids them good morrow with modest smile, and calls them brothers, friends, and countrymen. Upon his royal face there is no note how dread an army hath enrounded him. Nor doth he dedicate one jot of color unto the weary and all-watched night, but freshly looks and overbears a taint with cheerful semblance and modest smile. That every wretch, pining and pale, before beholding him, plucks comfort from his looks. A largesse universal like the sun, his liberal eye doth give to everyone, thawing cold fear, that mean and gentle awe. Behold, as may unworthiness define, a little touch of Harry in the night, and so our seam must to the battle fly, where, oh, for pity, we shall much disgrace, with 4 or 5 most vile and ragged foils. Right ill disposed in brawl ridiculous, the name of Agincourt. Yet Satan see, minding true things by what their mockeries be. Thank you.
Hamlet, Act 4, Scene 7. King Claudius and Laertes plot Hamlet's murder, either by a poisoned fencing rapier or by a poisoned chalice of wine. In this scene, Hamlet's mother, Queen Gertrude, interrupts to tell Laertes of his sister Ophelia's death by apparent suicide. One woe doth tread on another's heel, so fast they follow. Your sister's drowned, Laertes. There is a willow, grows aslant a brook, that shows his hoarleaves in the glassy stream. There with fantastic garlands did she come, of crowflowers, nettles, daisies, and long purples, that liberal shepherds give a grosser name, but our cold maids do dead men's fingers call them. There on a pendant bows her coronet weeds, clambering to hang, an envious sliver broke, when down her weedy trophies and herself fell in the weeping brook, her clothes spread wide, and mermaid-like a while they bore her up, which time she chaunted snatches of old tunes, as one incapable of her own distress, or like a creature, native and undued unto that element. But long it could not be, till that her garments, heavy with their drink, pulled the poor wretch from melodious lay to muddy death. Tempest, Act 1, Scene 2. After Prospero, the Duke of Milan, is betrayed by his brother and treacherously ousted of his dukedom, he and his daughter are stranded on a barren island for 12 years. Prospero uses magic to raise a tempest to wreck the ship carrying the King of Milan. In this scene, Prospero summons the spirit Ariel, who gives a report on the tempest. I boarded the king's ship, now in the beak, now in the waist, the deck, and every cabin. I'd flame amazement, sometime I'd divide and burn in many places on the topmast. The yards and bowsprit would I flame distinctly, then meet and join Jove's lightnings, the precursors. Oh, the dreadful thunderclaps, more momentary in sight outrunning were not. The fire and cracks of sulphurous roaring, most mighty Neptune, seemed to besiege and make his bold waves tremble, yea, his dread trident shake. Not a soul but felt fever of mad and played some tricks of desperation, then all afire with me, the king's son, Ferdinand. Then with hair upstaring, then like reeds, not hair, was the first that leapt, cried, Hell is empty, and all the devils are here. Sonnet 33. Full many a glorious morning have I seen, flatter the mountain tops with sovereign eye, kissing with golden face the meadows green, gilding pale streams with heavenly alchemy. Anon, permit the basest clouds to ride, with ugly rack on his celestial face, and from the forlorn world his visage hide, stealing unseen to west with this disgrace. Even so my sun when early morn did shine, with all triumphant splendor on my brow. But out, alack, he's but 1 hour mine, the region cloud hath masked him from me now. Yet for this my love no whit disdaineth, sons of the world may stain where heaven's sun staineth. Thank you.
Judges ready? Yes. Okay. Henry V, Act 4, Scene 3. On the eve of the Battle of Agincourt, Henry's closest advisors bemoan they are outnumbered 5 to 1 by French troops, who are fresh compared to the ragged English forces. Henry's cousin Westmoreland wishes that they had more reinforcements from England. This is Henry's reply. What's he that wishes so, my cousin Westmoreland? No, my fair cousin, if we are marked to die, we are enough to do our country loss. And if to live, the fewer men, the greater share of honor. God's will, I pray thee, wish not one man more. By Jove, I am not covetous for gold, nor care I who doth feed upon my cost. It yearns me not if men my garments wear. But if it be such outward things still not in my desire, but if it be a sin to covet honor, I am the most offending soul alive. No, faith, my coz, wish not one more. God's peace, I would not lose so great an honor, as one more man, methinks, would share from me. For the best hope I have, oh, do not wish one more, rather proclaim it, Westmoreland, through my host, that he which hath no step in this fight, let him depart, his passport be made, and crowns for convoys be put into his purse. We would not die in the man's company, who fears his fellowship to die with us. This day shall be called the Feast of Crispian. He that outlives this day and comes safe home will stand a tiptoe when the day is named, and will rouse him at the name Crispian. He that shall live this day and see old age will yearly on the vigil feast his neighbors, and say, tomorrow is Saint Crispian. Then you'll strip his sleeves and show his scars, and say, these wounds I had on Crispin's day. Old men forget, yet all shall be forgot. But he'll remember with advantages what feats he did that day. Then shall our names, familiar in his mouth as household words, Harry the King, Bedford and Exeter, Warwick and Talbot, Salisbury and Gloucester, be in their flowing cups freshly remembered. This story shall the good man teach his son, and Crispian shall ne'er go by, from this day to the ending of the world. But we in it shall be remembered. We few, we happy few, we band of brothers. For he today that sheds his blood with me shall be my brother, be he ne'er so vile. This day shall gentle us condition, and gentlemen in England, now abed, shall think themselves accursed they were not here, and hold their manhoods cheaps while any speaks that fought with us upon St. Crispin's day. Thank you.
Romeo and Juliet, Act 1, Scene 5. Romeo and Juliet, the classic tale of star-crossed lovers. In this scene, Romeo and his friends sneak into a Capulet party, and Romeo beholds Juliet for the first time. Oh, she doth teach the torches to burn bright. It seems she hangs upon the cheek of night, like a rich jewel in Ethiop's ear, beauty too rich for use, for earth too dear. So shows a snowy dove trooping with crows, as yonder lady o'er her fellows shows. The measure done, I'll watch her place of stand, and touching hers, make blessed my rude hand. Did my heart love till now? I forswear its sight, for I ne'er saw true beauty till this night. Romeo and Juliet, Act 2, Scene 2. In Capulet's garden, Romeo awaits secretly to speak with Juliet. He overhears her expressing her love for him and marvels at her beauty. But soft, what light through yonder window breaks? It is the east, and Juliet is the sun. Arise, fair sun, and kill the envious moon, who is already sick and pale with grief. That thou, her maid, art far more fair than she. Be not her maid, since she is envious. Her vestal livery is but sick and green, and none but fools do wear it. Cast it off. It is my lady, oh, it is my love. Oh, that she knew she were. She speaks, yet she says nothing. What of that? Her eye discourses, I will answer it. 2 of the fairest stars in all of heaven, having some business, do entreat her eyes, to twinkle in their spheres till they return. What if her eyes were there? They in her head?
The brightness of her cheek would shame those stars, as daylight doth a lamp. Her eye in heaven would through the airy region stream so bright that birds would sing and think it were not night. See how she leans her cheek upon her hand. Oh, that I were a glove upon that hand, that I might touch that cheek. Sonnet 29. When in disgrace, with fortune in men's eyes, I all alone beweep my outcast state, and trouble deaf heaven with my bootless cries, and look upon myself and curse my fate, wishing me like to one more rich in hope, featured like him with friends possessed, desiring this man's art and that man's scope. Yet in these thoughts, myself almost despising, happily I think on thee, and then my state, like to the lark at break of day, from sullen earth arising, sings hymns at heaven's gate. For thy sweet love remembered such wealth brings, that then I scorn to change my state with kings. Thank you.
Coriolanus, Act 5, Scene 3. Coriolanus is a Roman patrician who saves Rome from Volscian invaders, only to be rejected by the plebeians and eventually charged with treason and exiled from Rome. Thirsty for revenge, he joins forces with his former enemy to conquer the city that had rejected him. In this scene, his mother, Volumnia, begs him to spare the city. Should we be silent and not speak? Our raiment and state of bodies would bewray what life we have led since thy exile. Think with thyself how much more unfortunate than all living women are we come hither. Since that thy sight, which should make our eyes flow with joy, hearts dance with comforts, constrains them, weep and shake with fear and sorrow, making the mother, wife, and child to see the son, the husband, and the father, tearing his country's bowels out. And to pour we thine enmity's most capital, thou barrest us our prayers to the gods, which is a comfort that all but we enjoy. For how can we, alas, how can we for our country pray? Whereto we are bound together with thy victory, whereto we are bound, alack, or we must lose the country, our dear nurse, or else thy person, our comfort in the country. We must find an evident calamity, though we had our wish, which side should win. For either thou must, as a foreign recreant, be led with manacles through our streets, or else triumphantly tread on thy country's ruin, and bear the palm for having bravely shed thy wife and children's blood. For myself, son, I purpose not to wait on fortune till these wars determine. If I cannot persuade thee, rather to show a noble grace to both parts than seek the end of one, thou shalt no sooner march to assault thy country than to tread, trust to it, thou shalt not, on thy mother's womb, which brought thee to this world. Titus Andronicus, Act 1, Scene 1. Tamora is queen of the Goths. Her people have just been conquered and brought back to Rome as captives. Some of the Roman soldiers asked their general, Titus Andronicus, to allow them to sacrifice the eldest son of the queen of the Goths. Titus agrees. Here, Tamora begs him to change his mind. Stay, Roman brethren, gracious conqueror, victorious Titus, rue the tears I shed, a mother's tears in passion for her son. And if thy sons were ever dear to thee, oh, think my son to be as dear to me. Sufficeth, not that we were brought to Rome to beautify thy triumphs and returns, captive to thee and to thy Roman yoke. But must my sons be slaughtered in the streets for valiant doings in their country's cause? Oh, if to fight for king and commonwealth were piety in thine, it is in these. Andronicus, stain not thy tomb with blood. Wilt thou draw near the nature of the gods? Draw near them then, in being merciful. Sweet mercy, is nobility's true badge. Thrice, noble Titus, spare my firstborn son. Thank you.
Julius Caesar, Act 2, Scene 1. Brutus anxiously ponders joining the conspiracy against Julius Caesar. His wife, Portia, knows that something is wrong and is frustrated that he won't confide in her. Here she confronts him in the middle of the night after he has met with the other conspirators. Brutus, my lord, you tell me it is not for my health thus to commit my weak conditions to the raw, cold morning, nor for yours neither. You ungently, Brutus, stole from my bed, and yesternight at supper you suddenly arose and walked about, musing and sighing with your arms across, and when I asked you what the matter was, you stared upon me with ungentle looks. I urged you further, then you scratched your head, but too impatiently stamped with your foot. Yet I insisted, yet you answered not, but with an angry wafture of your hand gave sign for me to leave you. So I did. Fearing to strengthen that impatience which seemed too much enkindled, and withal hoping it was but an effect of humor, which sometime hath its hour with every man. It will not let you eat, nor talk, nor sleep, and could it work so much upon your shape as it hath much prevailed on your condition. I should not know you, Brutus. Dear my lord, make me acquainted with your cause of grief. Is Brutus sick? And is it physical? To walk unbraced and suck up the humors of the dank morning? What? Is Brutus sick? And will he steal out of his wholesome bed to dare the vile contagion of night and tempt the roomy and unpurged air, to add unto his sickness? No, my Brutus, you have some sick offense within your mind, which by the right and virtue of my place I ought to know of. And upon my knees I charm you, by my once commended beauty, by all your vows of love, and that great vow which did incorporate and make us one, that you unfold to me, yourself, your half. Why you are heavy, and what men tonight have had to resort to you. For here have been some 6 or 7 who did hide their faces, even from darkness. You say, kneel not, gentle Portia. I should not kneel if you were gentle, Brutus. Within the bond of marriage, tell me, Brutus, is it accepted that I should know no secrets that appertain to you? Am I yourself, but as it were, in sort or limitations, to keep with you at meals, comfort your bed, and talk to you sometimes? Dwell I but in the suburbs of your good pleasure? If this be no more, Portia is not Brutus's wife. If this were true, then should I know the secret. I grant I am a woman, but withal a woman that Lord Brutus took to wife. I grant I am a woman, but withal a woman well reputed, Cato's daughter. Think you I am no stronger than my sex, being so fathered and so husbanded? Tell me your counsels. I will not disclose them. Thank you.
Are the judges ready? Julius Caesar, Act 3, Scene 2. Mark Antony is heartbroken at the murder of Julius Caesar, but knows he needs to feign respect to Brutus and Cassius until his plan comes together. In this scene, Antony seizes the audience with Caesar's will, which caused the plebeians to practically beg to know the contents of it. Yesterday, the word of Caesar might have stood against the world. Now lies he there, and none so poor to do him reverence. O masters, if I were disposed to stir your hearts and minds to mutiny and rage, I should do Brutus wrong and Cassius wrong, who, you all know, are honorable men. I will not do them wrong. I'd rather choose to wrong the dead, to wrong myself and you, than I will wrong such honorable men. But here's a parchment with the seal of Caesar I found in his closet. 'Tis his will. Let but the commons hear this testament, which, pardon me,
I do not mean to read. And they would go and kiss dead Caesar's wounds and dip their napkins in his sacred blood. Yea, beg a hair of him for memory, and, dying, mention it within their wills, bequeathing it as a rich legacy unto their issue. Have patience, gentle friends. I must not read it. It is not me you know how Caesar loved you. You are not wood, you're not stones, but men. And, being men, hearing the will of Caesar, it won't flame you, it will make you mad. 'Tis good you know not that you are his heirs, for if you should, oh, what would come of it? This next speech is from Timon of Athens, Act 4, Scene 3. Lord Timon spends his wealth freely in others and hosts lavish banquets for many guests that he thought were his friends. When his money runs out and the creditors start calling, nobody comes to help him, so he curses Athens and banishes himself to the wilderness. While digging for roots to eat, he finds large quantities of gold. In this scene, bandits demand he turn over his gold, and Timon replies that if they are really in need, they can find plenty to eat in nature. Of course, the bandits aren't talking about food. They want gold. This is Timon's response. Nor on the beasts themselves, the birds and fishes. You must eat men. Yet thanks I must do, Khan, that you are thieves professed, that you work not in holier shapes, for there is boundless theft in limited professions. Rascal thieves, here's gold. Go suck the subtle blood of the grape, till the high fever seethe your blood to froth. And so scape hanging. Trust not the physician. His antidotes are poison, and he slays more than you rob. Take wealth and lives together. Do villainy, do, since you protest to do it. Like workmen, I'll example you with thievery. The sun's a thief, and with his great attraction, robs the vast sea. The moon's an errant thief, and her pale fire she snatches from the sun. The sea's a thief, whose liquid surge resolves the moon into salt tears. The earth's a thief that feeds and breeds by composture stolen from general excrement. Each thing's a thief. The laws, your curb and whip, in their rough power of unchecked theft. Love not yourselves. Away, rob one another. There is more gold, cutthroats. All that you me are thieves. To Athens go and break open shops. Nothing can you steal, but thieves do lose it. Steal no less for this I give you, and gold confound you householder. Amen.